Hello friends, and welcome back to Swiftlessons for video number 2 of my 2-part series, breaking down the Traveling Wilburys handle with care. Now in our last session, I broke down how to play the rhythm guitar parts for the intro, verse, bridge, and chorus sections. Now in this lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to play George's slide guitar solos. We're going to get started with solo number 1, then I'm going to break down the outro solo, and you can follow along measure by measure by using my tab at patreon.com/swiftlessons. Now, let's get started. Okay, close look at the fretboard, getting started breaking down solo number 1. The first step is to understand where the notes are coming from. And that's very simple. It's all coming from the G major scale being performed on the G string. So to create that, we have the open G string, and we just need to travel up the fretboard using that very specific series of whole steps and half steps for the major scale. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And that's going to reveal all the notes that are in this first solo. So we have the open G, and a whole step up to A, whole step up to B, a half step to C, a whole step up to D, a whole step up to E, another whole step up to F sharp, and a half step to G, back to the tonic or the root note. Okay, breaking down George's first solo, it's going to sound like this at a nice slow tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4, and... Okay, breaking that down, we're going to get started learning this using the index finger. That's something that I always do whenever I'm learning a new slide guitar part. Then we transfer it to the slide. Okay, so we're going to start it on the 4th fret of the G string. This is very simple and very short. We're sliding from 4 up to 7. All right, we're going to have some vibrato there. Then we're going to do a slide up from 5 up to 7 and then slide back down to 4. Just like that. Put that together and we've got. Alright. Next, we're going to do another series of 2 slides, going from 4 up to 7 and then up to 11, like this. Now notice how that first slide was legato, meaning that we're going to allow the 4th fret of the G string to ring out a little bit longer. Alright, next we're going to have the 9th fret of the G string up to the 11th fret, slide up to 12, and then down to 7. Okay, now when you're using the slide, you're going to kind of swoop up into those notes a little bit more. So that's going to be phrased like this. You put all that together and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, now let's see if we can play that using the slide. Okay, now applying the slide and reviewing a little bit of basic technique. So we're on the 4th fret of the G string. Now, the basic technique is you want to have the slide right over the fret, but you don't want to press too hard. It really doesn't require a lot of pressure on the string to voice a note perfectly when using your slide. Now, a couple of other details. I've got my index finger. It's kind of laying across the strings. That's going to keep the low notes from rattling against the slide and making some residual noise. Additionally, for stability, I have my middle finger kind of anchored on top of the slide, and my pinky is also pinching the slide. That's going to give me a little bit more confidence as I move up and down the fretboard. Now, with your picking hand, it's very important if you're going to be plucking notes on the G string, you want to try to silence the other strings. So the adjacent strings B and high E string, I'm going to hold those down with my middle finger and my ring finger. Okay, that way I'm going to get some nice clean notes on the G string. Okay, so sliding from 4 up to 7. A little vibrato is going to sound great. Just shaking that slide side to side. Alright, 5, 7 down to 4. Okay, then we're going from 4 to 7 to 11. Alright, then we're going to play that 9, 11, 12, 7 segment. Okay, this is a little bit more specific. So we're going to play. Okay, see how I slid up to the 11th fret, but then I went back a little bit and slid up to the 12th fret. So really what you should be doing is going. Okay, so I slid from 9 to 11, brought the slide back to 9, and then slid to 12, and then went to the 7th fret of the G string. If you really want to sound like George, he kind of swings up into those notes. Okay, so one more time. Okay, you put all that together and we've got. Okay, excellent work everybody. You have solo number 1 down. Now we're jumping into solo number 2. Now this one's going to be more complex and certainly more advanced, especially since we're going to be playing on the higher strings, string B and high E string. But this is really going to help you to get a grasp of George Harrison's slide guitar style. Okay, it's going to sound like this. Okay, breaking that down, again, it's very, very useful to be able to visualize the G major scale on the strings that you're going to be playing on. So, the high E string and the B string. On the high E string, we can find G on the 3rd fret, and then walk up, again, that pattern of whole steps and half steps. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, and half step. Then on the B string, you can find a G note here, on the 8th fret of the B string. Okay, so same exact thing. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, and half step for another G major scale. Okay, now breaking this down phrase by phrase, getting started using our fingers first. Okay, so phrase number 1 is going to sound like this just as the D major chord comes in. Okay, very simple. We're sliding up to the 10th fret of the high E string from the 8th fret. Vibrato. Then we're going to do that exact same slide again, but then down to 7. And then finally to the 8th fret of the B string. Okay, so real slow. Okay, now the next phrase is going to sound like this. Okay, so we're kind of outlining this G major chord shape in D position. 7th fret G, 8th fret of the B, and the 7th fret of the high E string. That's another really good thing to visualize as you play through these licks. Okay, so we started on the 8th fret of the B string, then to the 7th fret, 8th fret with a slide up to 10. So far you got. Alright, now slide up to the 14th fret of the high E string. Just like that. Okay, next he's going to play. Okay, so we went from 12 to 14, 15th with a slide away, and then to the 12th fret of the B string. And that completes line number 1 of the tablature. You put all that together and we've got. Okay, very good. That wraps up line number 1 of the tab. Now we're moving on to line number 2. That 12th fret of the B string gets us there. Okay, the next phrase is going to sound like this. Okay, a little G major arpeggio there. Okay, so what we've got going on is the 8th fret of the B string, then the high E string 8th fret, twice. Then on the 3rd time, we slide up to the 12th fret of the same string. Okay, next, slide up to 14. Alright, then we're going up to 15, sliding down to 10, and then down to 7. And then finally to the 8th fret of the B string. Okay, let's put that together. It's a long phrase. Okay, now the final phrase is going to sound like this. Okay, so we slid up to the 8th fret of the high E string, tapped it again, slid one more time, and then went to the 7th fret, then to the tonic, the 8th fret of the B string, a G note. Okay, let's put that entire line together now. We have. Okay, now implementing the slide to solo number 2. We're gonna have to be very careful not to press too hard with the slide, but also not to be too light with the slide. Because the B string and the high E string are so thin, we really need to calibrate our touch. Okay, just a quick tip for playing on those high strings. One of the things I like to do if I'm going to be using a pick while playing slide is I'll use my thumb to block any string that I'm not using. So if I'm playing the high E string, my thumb, as it holds the pick, is going to be kind of draped across the E, A, D, G, and B strings. That's going to keep everything quiet and isolate the string that I'm trying to use. Okay, so lick number 1. Okay, using that vibrato. Lick number 2. Now on to line number 2, we have that light touch. Okay, now from here, this part took me a lot of practice. It's just a G major arpeggio. Similar to what we'd find in the F-shaped position, but we're doing it on 2 strings. Notice how I plucked that 7th fret of the high E string. Okay, so. Okay, then you're gonna wrap it up with. And something that might sound good is if you did a slide back to that 7th fret. Alright, that's a very cool country trick. Okay, put that entire solo together and we have at a slow tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4, and... Alright friends, thanks so much for checking out this slide guitar tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. As always, big thanks to my supporters at patreon.com/swiftlessons. I hope you're enjoying all those extra resources. And thanks to you guys, I got many more lessons coming up. So keep checking in, please subscribe, please share. This is Rob at Swift Guitar Lessons in Philadelphia, saying happy picking.